It was a quiet evening, and the sky was painted with soft shades of pink and orange. The little girl sat by the window, her legs curled up beneath her, staring at the playground outside. Children ran and laughed, their fathers playing with them, lifting them high into the air or pushing them on the swings. Her small hands rested on the windowsill, and she felt a hollow ache inside her chest. She didn't understand why she felt so different from the other kids. Why every laugh from the playground seemed to remind her that she didn't have the one person she wished she did. She wished she had a father who would come to her school events, who would hold her hand during ceremonies, who would clap proudly when she performed, and who would be there just for her. Her mother was busy in the kitchen, preparing a simple dinner. The aroma of rice and vegetables filled the small apartment, but the girl wasn't hungry. She barely noticed the food. Her mind was somewhere else, thinking about the school program that was scheduled for tomorrow. It was a special day, a day when children were encouraged to invite their fathers to school for a small ceremony, a performance, and a chance to spend time together. The girl had been looking forward to it quietly, but the excitement quickly turned into a sinking feeling. When she remembered that she didn't have a father to invite, she watched her classmates' fathers at school events in her mind. She remembered how her friend's father always cheered the loudest, how he would lift her friend on his shoulders, and how he would walk her to school holding her hand every day. She thought about how her friend would smile at her father, and the warmth in their eyes made the little girl's heart ache. She wanted that. She wanted just a little bit of that for herself, even if it was only for a day. Finally, she gathered the courage to speak to her mother. She walked over quietly, her little feet making soft sounds on the floor. Her mother was stirring the food in the pan, humming a gentle tune. The girl looked up at her mother with wide, earnest eyes. "Mom," she whispered. Her mother looked down and smiled softly. "Yes, sweetheart. I want a father. Just for tomorrow. Just for the school program. Can I borrow one?" Her voice was barely audible, but the words carried so much hope and sadness that they hung in the air. Her mother's hands paused mid-stir, and she turned to look at her daughter. Her eyes softened, and she knelt down to be at the girl's level. She could see the longing in her daughter's eyes, a longing that broke her heart. "Oh, sweetheart," she said gently. She didn't have the words to explain why they didn't have a father, why life had been so unfair, but she also didn't want to crush her daughter's wish. She wrapped her arms around her and held her close. "I don't know if that can happen, but we can try. We can see if someone kind can help." The girl's face lit up, a small spark of hope appearing where there had been sadness moments before. She hugged her mother tightly, feeling a little of the weight lift from her shoulders. That night, they worked together. Her mother took out her phone and wrote a simple message on a community page. It didn't ask for money. It didn't ask for anything complicated. It was a simple request, simple wish, someone willing to spend a few hours with a little girl who wanted a father for a day. The post went out into the world, and they didn't know who would respond, or if anyone would respond at all. The girl tried to sleep that night, but her mind kept wandering back to the playground, to the laughter, to the fathers cheering for their children. She imagined what it would be like to have someone stand beside her, someone who would hold her hand and smile proudly. She imagined the day, hoping against hope that someone would say yes. Meanwhile, not far from their home, a man sat alone in his small apartment. He had lived alone for many years, carrying the weight of his own losses and regrets. He had never married, never had children, and life had become quiet and lonely for him. He spent his evenings reading, sometimes watching television, but mostly just sitting and thinking. He had seen the post online without expecting it to reach him. He read it slowly, and something stirred inside him. The words of a little girl wishing for a father for a day touched a part of him that he thought had been closed off forever. He hesitated. He wasn't sure if he was the right person. He didn't know how to be a father, even for a day. But the thought of this little girl, hoping for someone to be there for her, pulled at his heart. He couldn't ignore it. He replied to the message, offering to help. He didn't know what he was getting into, but he knew he couldn't let the chance pass. Something told him that this meeting could change both their lives. The next morning, the girl woke up with nervous excitement. She dressed carefully, smoothing her hair and making sure her clothes were neat. She barely ate breakfast, unable to focus. Her mother gave her a reassuring smile and reminded her that someone kind had agreed to come. The girl held her mother's hand tightly, her heart pounding with anticipation. When the man arrived, he was nervous, unsure how to approach a little girl who had been waiting for him. He knocked on the door, and the girl's mother opened it, smiling warmly. The little girl peeked around the doorframe, and when she saw him, her eyes widened. He smiled gently, and she felt a strange sense of comfort wash over her. He knelt down to her level, introducing himself with kindness, and she felt an instant connection. It was awkward at first as they both tried to find the right words, but slowly they began to talk. He asked her about school, about her favorite activities, and about her dreams. She told him about her love for drawing, her favorite stories, and even her wish to have someone proud of her. By the time they reached the school, the girl felt like she had known him longer than just a few hours. He held her hand as they walked through the crowded halls, and she felt a sense of pride she had never felt before. Children whispered and stared, curious about the new dad, but the girl didn't care. She had what she had wished for: a father, just for a day. Someone who was there for her. As the ceremony began, he clapped and cheered, making her laugh and smile. The warmth in his eyes made her feel safe, seen, and loved. For the first time, she understood what it meant to have someone proud of her. And for the first time in a long time, she believed that maybe, just maybe, her wish had come true. The man felt nervous as he waited outside the school building. He had never been to an event like this before, and the thought of being responsible for a little girl, even for a few hours, made his stomach twist. He took a deep breath and tried to remind himself that this was a simple act of kindness. Yet inside he felt a mix of anxiety and excitement. What if he said something wrong? What if he couldn't make her happy? What if he failed? He shook his head, trying to push away the doubts. He focused instead on the little girl who had made a simple wish. A wish that had reached him through the vast world of the internet. When he entered the school, the noise and energy hit him immediately. Children ran past, laughing and shouting, their voices echoing through the halls. Parents and guardians were scattered in groups, chatting and watching, many carrying cameras or phones to capture the moments. Amidst all the activity, the little girl spotted him. She ran forward, her face lighting up in a smile that melted away all his uncertainty. He knelt down, and she hugged him tightly. For a moment, the world outside didn't exist. In that hug, there was trust, warmth, and hope. He introduced himself softly, careful not to startle her. She responded shyly at first, then gradually words began to flow. They talked about her favorite colors, the books she loved, and the songs she enjoyed singing. He listened intently, asking questions and showing interest. She laughed, a sound so pure and bright that it made him smile in return. He realized that even a few kind words and attention could light up her world in ways he had never imagined. The program began. Children filed onto the small stage. The little girl held his hand tightly as they found a seat near the front. He watched her eyes sparkle with excitement and nervousness, and he felt a surge of protective affection. She performed a small song and a poem, her voice trembling at first, but growing stronger as she saw him smiling and encouraging her. She glanced at him mid-performance, and his thumbs-up gesture gave her the courage to continue. When she finished, she ran into his arms, and he clapped proudly, louder than anyone else. The joy on her face was something he would never forget. After the program, they wandered through the schoolyard together. The little girl chattered endlessly, telling him about her friends, her favorite games, and the adventures she dreamed of having. He laughed with her, sometimes playing along, sometimes asking questions that made her think and giggle. They swung on the swings, and he pushed her gently, making sure she felt safe while soaring through the air. She squealed with delight, and he realized that simple moments could create the deepest happiness. It was not about grand gestures or expensive gifts. It was about presence, attention, and care. As they walked back toward the small cafe near the school, she asked him if they could have ice cream. He hesitated briefly, aware that they didn't have much money. But he saw the hopeful look in her eyes and knew he couldn't say no. They entered the small shop, and he let her choose whatever flavor she wanted. She picked 2 scoops of her favorite, and they sat outside, enjoying the warm sun and the simple treat. She told him stories about her school, her classmates, and even small worries she carried. He listened carefully, offering comfort and gentle advice when he could. She leaned on his shoulder, feeling safe and cherished. Throughout the day, he found himself opening up to her as well. He shared small stories from his own childhood. Simple memories that were not always happy but taught him lessons about kindness, resilience, and patience. She listened intently, her eyes wide with curiosity and empathy. In that moment, it didn't feel like a favor or an obligation. It felt like a connection, a bond that was forming naturally, without pressure or expectation. They were learning from each other, filling gaps that life had left in both of them. As the afternoon turned into evening, the girl looked up at him with a shy expression. "Do you have to go?" she asked quietly. Her small hand reached for his, and he felt a pang of emotion. He had not expected to feel such a strong attachment after just one day, but he realized that human hearts often need connection more than anything else. He knelt to her level, taking both her hands in his. "I'll come back," he said gently, "if you want me to. I can visit again, and we can spend more time together." Her face lit up with joy, a smile breaking through the worry she had felt for so long. She nodded eagerly, hugging him tightly once more. He hugged her back, feeling a depth of emotion he had not known he was capable of. In that hug, he understood the power of presence, of simply being there for someone who needed you. It was a lesson he would carry with him forever. The walk home was quiet, filled with small talks and comfortable silences. The little girl held onto his hand, and he walked beside her, careful to stay close and supportive. When they reached her apartment, her mother greeted them with a warm smile, sensing the bond that had formed during the day. She thanked him sincerely, her eyes filled with gratitude and relief. The girl ran inside, happy and full of energy, while he waved and promised to return. He walked back to his own apartment, feeling a strange mixture of exhaustion and fulfillment. The day had been long, but it had also been profoundly meaningful. That night, he sat alone and reflected on what had happened. The simple act of spending a day with a little girl had changed something in him. He realized that life's value was often found in small, seemingly ordinary moments. The laughter of a child, the warmth of a hug, the trust that someone places in youth were treasures more precious than anything money could buy. He felt a new sense of purpose, a desire to continue being a presence in her life, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. And somewhere in the back of his mind, he knew that this was only the beginning of a bond that would grow stronger with time. A bond that had the power to transform both their lives in ways they could not yet imagine. The next morning, the little girl woke up with a sense of excitement she had never felt before. Yesterday's events kept replaying in her mind, the laughter, the songs, the gentle encouragement, and most of all, the warmth of the man's presence. She couldn't wait to see him again, even though they had agreed it was only for a day. Somehow, she felt that the connection they had formed was far more than a single event. She dressed quickly, choosing her favorite outfit, and ran to the window, hoping to catch a glimpse of him approaching. She didn't know why her heart felt so full and light, but she didn't question it. She only hoped he would come back. Meanwhile, the man had woken with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. He thought about the little girl and the joy on her face. The memory of her trust and excitement stayed with him all night. He knew he wanted to spend more time with her, even if it wasn't planned or expected. He wanted to see her laugh again, to hear her stories, and to share small moments that could make a difference in her life. With that thought, he prepared himself to visit her again, unsure of what the day would hold, but certain that he wanted to be part of it. When he arrived at her small apartment, the girl ran to the door and threw her arms around him. She hugged him tightly, and he hugged her back, feeling a deep sense of connection and responsibility. They went out together, hand in hand, not because they needed to do anything special, but because simply being together was enough. The streets felt alive, filled with the chatter of people, the hum of cars, and the scent of fresh flowers from nearby shops. The little girl skipped along, occasionally looking back at him to make sure he was following, and he smiled quietly at her innocence and trust. They decided to spend the morning at the park. She ran ahead, laughing freely, while he followed at a slower pace, watching her with gentle amusement. She climbed the slides, balanced on the low beams, and swung on the swings, and he made sure she felt safe the entire time. At one point, she turned to him and asked if he could push her higher on the swing. He hesitated for a moment, then agreed, careful to support her properly. As she soared through the air, she laughed louder than he had ever heard, a sound that stayed with him long after it faded. He realized that the simplest moments, like pushing a swing or holding hands, could create memories that lasted a lifetime. After the park, they walked to a small cafe nearby. The girl ordered her favorite snack, a simple pastry she loved, and they shared a warm drink. As they sat together, she began to talk about her dreams, her hopes for the future, and even her fears. She spoke openly, without hesitation, because she felt safe with him. He listened intently, offering gentle encouragement and wisdom when needed, but mostly just listening. He realized that sometimes the greatest gift one could offer was attention and understanding. As the day went on, the girl suggested they do something creative. She pulled out a small sketchbook she always carried and asked if he would draw with her. At first, he felt unsure. He hadn't drawn in years, and he wasn't confident in his skills. But she smiled at him encouragingly, and he decided to try. They spent hours sketching together, sharing ideas and laughing at their mistakes. The little girl's face glowed with happiness, and he felt a sense of pride in being part of her world. The simple act of creating together deepened their bond, showing him that love and connection could grow in unexpected ways. Later, they wandered to a quiet street lined with trees. The girl held his hand and pointed out small details she noticed: the way sunlight fell on the leaves, the chirping of birds, the patterns of shadows on the pavement. He listened and appreciated her perspective, realizing how much wonder and beauty could be found in everyday life when seen through the eyes of a child. She reminded him to slow down, to notice the small things, and to enjoy the present moment as evening approached. They returned to her apartment, but neither wanted the day to end. The girl asked if they could plan more days like this, not just today. He looked at her, her eyes filled with hope and trust, and knew he couldn't say no. He promised her that they would spend more time together and that he would be there for her whenever possible. Her smile lit up the room, and he felt a warmth inside him that he had not felt in years. It was a mixture of joy, responsibility, and the simple satisfaction of knowing he could make a difference in someone's life. That night, as the girl drifted off to sleep, she thought about the day and all the things they had done. She felt loved, valued, and seen in a way she had never experienced before. She didn't know how long he would stay in her life, but she hoped he would be there for many more days, weeks, and even years. She felt a sense of security and happiness that she had only dreamed of before. The day had started as a simple wish for a father for one day, but it had become so much more. It had become the beginning of a bond that neither of them could have predicted, a bond that promised shared moments, laughter, and understanding. The man, back in his apartment, reflected on the day with a quiet sense of fulfillment. He realized that the connection he had formed with the little girl was already changing him. He felt more patient, more attentive, and more aware of the simple joys in life. He understood that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could have the greatest impact. He thought about the trust she had placed in him, the way she had opened her heart so easily, and he knew he wanted to honor that trust. He wanted to continue being a steady presence in her life, not because it was expected, but because it was meaningful. As days turned into weeks, they continued spending time together. Each meeting, each shared moment deepened their bond. They went to the park, shared snacks, drew pictures, and talked about everything under the sun. The girl grew more confident, more open, and more joyful, knowing she had someone who cared deeply for her. The man discovered a sense of purpose and fulfillment he had not known he was missing. He realized that life's value often came from relationships, from the love and trust shared between people, and from the moments that created lasting memories. What started as a simple act of kindness, a man agreeing to spend a day with a little girl, had transformed into something much larger. It had created a connection that neither time nor circumstance could easily break. It showed both of them that family was not always about blood, but about who chooses to show up, who chooses to care, and who chooses to be there when it matters most. And as they both continued on their journeys, they carried with them the knowledge that one day, one simple decision, one act of presence could change a life forever, as weeks turned into months. The little girl and the man settled into a rhythm that felt comfortable and natural. What had started as a simple act of kindness had grown into something deeper, a bond that neither of them expected. The girl looked forward to their time together with excitement and anticipation. She would count down the days until he arrived, and when he did, her eyes would light up in a way that made him feel a warmth he had not known in years. He, in turn, felt a sense of purpose and joy that transformed his everyday life. Each visit brought new laughter, small adventures, and shared moments that stitched their lives together. They continued their routine of simple activities, the kind that did not require money or grand plans. Walks in the park became their favorite way to spend time. She loved running ahead, and he would follow at a careful pace, making sure she was safe. Sometimes they would sit on a bench and watch the clouds drift by, imagining shapes and stories in their patterns. Other times, they would watch children play, commenting quietly on the games and the cleverness of the moves. She learned to see the world through his calm perspective, and he learned to rediscover wonder and curiosity through her eyes. The little girl also began to bring him into her school life more actively. She would tell him about her favorite subjects, the books she was reading, and the projects she was working on. He listened attentively, often helping her think through problems in ways that were gentle and encouraging. He was not a teacher, but he had a wisdom born from life experience that helped her navigate challenges she faced at school. She felt supported, and that support made her braver. She raised her hand more in class, tried new activities, and even shared her ideas with her friends. Proud of the encouragement she received from him, on weekends, they would engage in creative activities at home. The little girl loved to draw and paint, and he would sit beside her, adding his own sketches to the mix. Their drawings were often silly, filled with imaginative stories, fantastical creatures, and little jokes that only they understood. She laughed at his attempts when he made mistakes, and he laughed at her inventive ideas. The art became a language they shared, a way to communicate joy, curiosity, and understanding. Without needing words all the time, they also began cooking together. The girl loved helping in the kitchen, measuring ingredients and stirring pots with care. The man guided her patiently, showing her simple techniques and explaining how to follow recipes. Sometimes they would experiment, mixing ingredients in ways that did not always turn out as expected. But the failures were part of the fun, and they would laugh together, tasting small bites and celebrating what worked. Cooking became a shared experience, a way to nourish not just their bodies, but their connection. Life, of course, was not always easy. There were days when the little girl felt sad or frustrated. She missed her friends, worried about schoolwork, or felt lonely for other reasons. On these days, the man would notice immediately. He did not try to fix everything, but he would sit beside her, listen carefully, and offer comfort. Sometimes they would go for a quiet walk. Sometimes they would sit in silence, holding hands, and sometimes they would play a simple game that made her laugh. She learned that it was okay to feel sadness, that having someone who cared made the sadness lighter, more bearable. The man, too, faced moments of doubt. There were times when he wondered if he was doing enough, if he could truly be a positive influence in her life. He worried about the responsibilities he had taken on, even though they were not formal or legal. But every time he saw her face light up, heard her laughter, or felt her trust, he knew that the impact was real. He understood that love and guidance did not need perfection. They needed presence, consistency, and kindness. Holidays and special events became moments they cherished even more. Birthdays, school plays, and small community celebrations were occasions where he made sure to be there, supporting her fully. He took photos, offered gentle applause, and sometimes surprised her with small treats. She felt seen, valued, and loved, and that love began to shape her confidence and personality. She began to smile more readily, speak more freely, and approach challenges with courage. His presence was quietly changing the trajectory of her life. As the seasons changed, so did their relationship deepen. The little girl began to understand that he was not just a temporary figure, not just a father for a day. He was someone she could rely on, someone who chose to be in her life consistently, out of care and love. And the man realized that he had found something he had been missing for years: the joy of being a guiding presence, of nurturing someone with no expectation except the simple act of caring. Their bond was built on trust, mutual respect, and the simple joy of shared experiences. They also explored new places together. Simple trips to the library, local museums, or nearby nature spots became adventures filled with learning and laughter. The girl's curiosity was endless, and he encouraged it fully. He asked questions, listened to her ideas, and gently offered guidance when needed. They discovered new books, learned about history, explored plants and animals, and even tried simple science experiments at home. Each day was a chance to discover the world together. Each discovery deepened their connection. Even everyday chores became opportunities for togetherness. Cleaning up the apartment, folding laundry, or organizing toys were shared activities where laughter and conversation flowed freely. The little girl began to take pride in helping, and he encouraged her independence while offering support when needed. She felt capable, confident, and valued. He felt fulfilled, knowing that his presence was making her feel stronger and more resilient. Through all of this, the girl's mother observed the changes with gratitude and relief. She saw her daughter's confidence grow, her happiness increase, and the positive impact that this relationship had on her life. She did not interfere or overstep, but she offered quiet support, allowing the bond to develop naturally. She saw the man not as an intruder, but as a gift, someone who filled a gap in their lives with care and consistency. The man, too, noticed changes in himself. He became more patient, more attentive, and more joyful in small moments. He began to value the everyday experiences, the small laughter, the quiet conversations, and the trust placed in him. He realized that family was not only about blood, but about choice, commitment, and presence. He understood that love was shown through actions, not titles, and that the bond they had formed was real, deep, and transformative. As months passed, the little girl and the man continued to create memories together. They celebrated small victories, comforted each other during setbacks, and shared endless moments of laughter. Their relationship had grown beyond the idea of a temporary day. It had become a consistent, reliable, and loving presence in both their lives. They had found a rhythm, a shared understanding, and a connection that neither expected but both cherished deeply. In this journey, both learned invaluable lessons. The girl learned that trust and openness could lead to profound connections. She learned that support and encouragement could empower her to face challenges and embrace new experiences. The man learned that even a single act of kindness could blossom into a lifelong bond. He discovered the joy of nurturing, guiding, and simply being present in someone's life. Together, they created a shared world of laughter, care, and understanding that became the foundation of a lasting relationship. This bond, built on small acts of love and attention, would continue to grow and evolve. The little girl felt secure and valued, knowing that someone would always be there for her. The man felt fulfilled and alive, knowing that his presence had a meaningful impact. They had found in each other what life had been missing: connection, trust, and unconditional care. And through this, they learned that family was not always defined by blood, but by who chooses to show up, who chooses to stay, and who chooses to care with consistency and love. Their shared journey was far from over, and every day offered new opportunities to strengthen the bond that had begun with a single wish, a single act of kindness, and a heart willing to be there for someone in need. Years had passed since the little girl first asked for her father for a day. What started as a simple wish had turned into a lifetime of memories, a bond that neither she nor the man could have imagined. The girl had grown taller, her laughter deeper, and her confidence stronger. She faced the world with courage, knowing that someone had always been there to guide her, encourage her, and celebrate her victories. And the man had grown too. He had discovered a new side of himself, one that was patient, loving, and deeply fulfilled by the presence of the girl, who had once needed a father for just a single day. The man had been there for birthdays, school events, and countless small milestones. He had cheered the loudest when she performed, wiped away tears when she faced disappointments, and celebrated quietly when she succeeded in ways big and small. Their days together were filled with ordinary moments that became extraordinary simply because they shared them. Walking to school, sitting in the park, baking cookies, drawing pictures, or even folding laundry, all of these moments had become memories they would treasure forever. It was the consistency, the care, and the shared attention that had cemented their bond. The girl had grown to understand that family was not only about blood. Family was about who shows up, who stays, and who chooses to care without condition. She knew that he had chosen her, that he had invested in her life, and that he had nurtured her in ways that mattered. She had learned the value of trust, of open-heartedness, and of the courage to ask for what she needed. She had learned that love could be built, nurtured, and sustained through presence and actions. And she knew she had found a constant in a world that sometimes felt uncertain. The man, too, had changed profoundly. He had learned that life's true rewards were not measured in wealth, achievements, or recognition, but in the connections we form and the positive impact we have on someone else's life. He had learned to be patient, to listen without judgment, to offer guidance without pressure, and to love without expectation. He had discovered the joy of being needed, the fulfillment that comes from giving, and the beauty of watching someone grow under your care. He had found a sense of purpose that he had not known he was missing, and it had transformed his life. Over the years, they had faced challenges together. School difficulties, moments of sadness, misunderstandings, and life's unexpected obstacles came and went. But through it all, the bond between them remained unbroken. They had learned to navigate life as a team, to support each other through hardships, and to celebrate joys together. The girl learned resilience, empathy, and compassion, guided by someone who had become her steady presence. The man learned humility, patience, and unconditional care, inspired by the trust and openness of the girl, who had once wished for a father for just one day, as the girl approached a major milestone in her life. The man was there, just as he had promised. He watched with pride and quiet emotion as she stood before a room of people, accomplished and confident. She glanced at him and their eyes met. In that moment, they both understood how far they had come. She introduced him not merely as a friend, a mentor, or a guide, but as someone who had been a constant in her life, someone who had shown up when it mattered most, and someone who had given her memories that would last a lifetime. Looking back, they both realized that it had all started with a simple wish. A wish for a father for just a day had turned into years of shared experiences, learning, and love. What began as a temporary role had evolved into a lasting connection, proving that family is defined not only by blood, but by choice, care, and consistency. They had built something together that could not be measured in days, months, or years. It was measured in trust, laughter, guidance, and the unbreakable bond of hearts aligned by love and commitment. The little girl, now older and more mature, often reflected on the impact this man had on her life. She remembered the nervous introduction, the laughter in the park, the drawing sessions, the quiet moments of comfort, and the celebrations of success. Each memory was a thread woven into the tapestry of her life. She had grown into someone confident and capable, equipped with the knowledge that she was supported and valued, and she knew that these lessons would guide her. For the rest of her life, the man also reflected on the journey with gratitude. He had stepped into her life uncertain and unsure, but he had found joy, purpose, and fulfillment beyond what he had imagined. He had discovered that love is not limited by circumstance, that presence can transform lives, and that the small acts of care and attention could have the most profound impact. He had been given the gift of shaping a life, and in doing so, his own life had been transformed. The bond they shared had become a cornerstone of his existence, bringing him happiness, hope, and a deep sense of connection together. They continued to make memories, knowing that the past had laid the foundation for a future filled with trust, love, and shared experiences. They walked through life side by side, supporting, encouraging, and celebrating each other's journeys. Their relationship was a testament to the power of kindness, the importance of showing up, and the beauty of a bond built on choice and care. It was a bond that had begun with a wish, flourished through shared experiences, and matured into a lifelong connection that neither could imagine living without. As the story of their lives continued, it became clear that the impact of that single day, the day the girl asked for a father, was immeasurable. It had set in motion a series of events that led to a profound, lasting relationship. The girl had been given more than a father for a day. She had been given guidance, love, and a steady presence that enriched her life beyond measure. The man had been given more than an opportunity to help. He had been given a role that transformed his understanding of family, love, and the importance of showing up when it mattered most. Their lives were intertwined in ways that could not be undone. Every shared laugh, every word of encouragement, every quiet moment of understanding had strengthened the bond between them. They had created a shared history, a collection of experiences that formed the foundation of a lifelong relationship. And in this shared journey, both discovered the true meaning of family, not as something defined by circumstance or blood, but as something built through care, presence, and unwavering support. In the end, the little girl's simple wish had become a life-changing reality. It had taught them both about the power of connection, the importance of showing up, and the beauty of unconditional care. It had shown them that family is not only about who you were born to, but about who chooses to stand by you, support you, and love you consistently. And as they moved forward hand in hand, they carried with them a lifetime of memories, a bond unbroken, and a love that would continue to guide, nurture, and inspire them for all the days to come.